Audacity is a free audio editing program. It has a lot of features on it which look complicated, but for a basic podcast, there are only a few key elements you need to know. You can look online. They have a very intricate instruction system on the Audacity website, which tells you how to use things. But some of the features just right off the bat. This area here, when you drag a audio clip in, this is where everything will appear. Your tracks will appear in order that you drag them in. I'll show you in a few minutes how you can rearrange that if you'd like. It has standard VCR type controls up here. If you want to record directly into Audacity with an external mic, you can do it using the record button. The buttons here are the ones we're going to be using mainly for our podcasting. Over here we have the levels, the sound levels. This is where you're going to see the green bars as you record. A, you're recording, and B, you can see how loud it is, and you can adjust that. If you want to control the speed of the podcast, you can do it here or here. If you want to increase the size of the audio file, you're increasing so you can see where to make your cuts. You can do the zoom in and zoom out buttons. So it's things like that. So the first thing you want to do is import your audio files. You can either just physically drag it into this gray area or do the old-fashioned way, file, import, and audio. So in this one I have my voice track. This will be the first one. This is the one I recorded on my phone and imported it. Now again, you see here has the audio print. The audio print shows the visual representation of your voice. The high peaks there are loud. The smaller ones, these basically straight lines, is silence. So you can basically see every word that you say in this. If you zoom in close enough with this, you can see really where the words begin. So the first thing you want to do is click on any point in it with the cursor, and hit the play button here, or space bar works the same way, to check your levels.
We'll begin this podcast as the theme music fades down and out. Audio editing is fun for many reasons.
Now you'll notice when I did that, the green marks here showing the levels hit about -12. That's actually exactly where it should be. If you are doing a podcast and you record it and the levels get up into the 6 and the 0, you'll see a yellow and some red there. That means it's too loud. If it doesn't get up to -12, usually on the peaks, it means it's too soft. And you can manipulate that with this slider right here. If you do it up like this,
we'll begin this podcast as the...
You see that's much too loud. So you bring it down like this.
We'll begin this podcast as the theme music.
Again, that's much too soft. So you always want to find a good level. This one, when it was recorded, it was fine, so I'll just put it back right in the middle. So the second thing you want to do is have a clean start. So you see in this one, there was a bit of a delay before the actual words began.
Hello and welcome.
So that's going to be my first one. I always like to leave a little second or two before the actual audio comes in. So what you do here is you hover over this vertical line here. You see the little finger with the arrow. Hold down your mouse and just drag it to the left. And then to get rid of that, you just hit the delete button on your keyboard. Same thing with the end of the show. It ends and then there's silence. Time it took me to turn off the mic.
Dub.
So you just want to take somewhere along the end. You maybe get 1 or 2 seconds left. Drag it over. Delete. So now we have a clean, complete piece of audio. The other thing you'll notice on the top of the screen, there's 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. That refers to seconds within the podcast. Generally I like to use a 15-second theme music before the actual podcast begins. But obviously right now it starts right in the beginning. So the way you move it is to use this tool here. It's called the time shift tool. You click that, and then you move down, hover over your voice print, and you see it as the icon that we just clicked. So hold your mouse down and then just move this. Now you can move it over to about 15 seconds. So now that begins at the 15-second mark. So the next thing you want to do is import your music file, your theme music. You can get these on any number of free rights-free sites, or if you want to license it or get permission from the music owner, that's fine too. So you want to do File, Import, Audio, and my theme music is here. and it pops it up. You can see the theme music added a second line right under your voice. Now, if you click back on this cursor, and this is the selection tool. Whenever you choose one of these, you have to always click back on this guy up here, the selection tool, to get back to your Finder. So you go to the beginning, hit the space bar, hit play. And you notice that the levels there are a little too high, so I'm just going to drag this down a little bit.
Hello and welcome. We'll begin this podcast as the theme music fades down and out.
And you notice the words of the voice track were sort of overwhelmed by the volume of the theme music. When Audacity, the way it works is if you have two audio clips on top of each other, they play over top of each other. So if they're the same volume, they compete with each other. So that's where another tool comes in, the envelope tool, this one right here. What you want to do is go to put your cursor right, where your music begins, and that's where you want the theme music to fade out. Now you want the theme music, full volume here, but then you want it to really dip down once you start your audio track. So the way you do that, you click on this button here, the envelope tool, and you hover over the voice print here, and you click it once where you want the music to begin, and then a second time, somewhere later in the voice print. It really doesn't matter where you put it. Then you go back over to somewhere within this section you just created, click your mouse, and then you can drag it down. And you see it creates a sort of little wavy pattern, a steep decline like this, the music is going to go away very quickly. A sort of shallow decline like this, it's going to go very slowly. So this is a matter of just what sounds good to you. But I'm going to just do it as a rather steep one. And then the music here, I'll just drag on the other side so you can play with it anywhere. I'm going to have the music go down to nothingness because I want it to go away from my other elements in the clip. But, if you want to play the music softly under your voice, that's another podcasting technique. You just make it small enough it doesn't compete with your voice. So if we put it like this, click back on my selection tool tab, and then we can play, and this is what it would sound like.
Hello and welcome. We'll begin this podcast as the theme music fades down and out. Audio editing is...
And now that sounds very smooth, very professional. So the next thing you want to do is find where you want to put the sound effect of the dog in. So you go back to your original clip here, choose a section you think it may be, hit play, and you want to watch the audio position number on the bottom here. This will tell you where within the clip the sound comes in.
Audio editing is fun for many reasons. One is that you can insert sound effects, like this dog barking, into your show.
It's about 29 seconds. So you could sort of guesstimate it based on the number up here, but that's kind of hard to tell. You don't want to hit it, to do a bad edit basically. So this is where the zoom function works. You zoom in a few times, you can see the 29 mark is right here, and you can see there's silence after it. So that's where you're going to, between your sentences, that's the pause. That's where you want to put the split. So what you do is you go and you click on it somewhere within that, and you go Edit, Clip Boundaries, Split. And that splits the sound file in two. So you want to zoom back out so you can see the sort of a larger view of it. And now you want to move this file somewhere to the right to just try to get rid of to put a space in for the next audio clip. And again, you do that by the time shift tool. Click on that, click on the one you want to drag, and then just drag it over. It doesn't really matter how far, you're going to move it back anyway, off to the right-hand side. So now you want to include the dog barking clip. You go File, Import, Audio. Here's my dog sound. And you notice how the dog sound is, on the third track in there. It's kind of hard to tell where it would go with this. So what we want to do is we can move it up. You can either make the audio file smaller and see them all at the same time, or what I prefer doing, you click on the arrow here on the sound, and you just say Move Track Up. And that moves it up to the second position so you can easily see where it fits in there. You also notice that this sound clip has two separate files, two identical ones. That's basically because this one was done in stereo. It has a right-hand side and a left-hand side for your ear. These were done in mono. It really doesn't matter unless you're getting to high-end, you want one sound in one ear and the other sound in the other ear. Otherwise, if it's just mono like this, it's going to be the same sound in both ears. So just something to notice, but you might as well just ignore it. So since we're still on the time shift tool here, we want to take this, grab it, and drag it over to where we want it. Now you notice if we put it here, there'd be a space of silence between these two clips. We don't want that. We want to go straight from one to the next. So if you drag it slowly, you'll see at one point a little yellow line appears. That means the sounds are butted up cleanly against each other. So you put that there, and then you can drag the other one over. You notice the other link there. And then you go back to your selection tool, hit that, click somewhere there, and then preview it.
Effects like this dog barking into your show. You can even talk over the dog if you'd like.
Now you notice there, first of all, I think the sound clip was a bit too long, so I'm just going to, pick a spot, where I think it, sounds like a good length, and then do what I did in the beginning of the podcast, hover over it till you see the little arrow, click, drag, and delete. Makes it a little smaller. You also notice in the audio clip here, it said talk over this dog. So it's basically saying I want to hear the dog over my voicing. So I need to move that. So I go back to my time shift tool and then drag it over and then give it a little overlap there and then go back to our selection tool, click here and see what it sounds like.
Sound effects like this dog barking into your show. You can even talk over the dog if you'd like.
And you also notice that the dog barking is loud competes with the voice track, so that's where we'd go back to our envelope tool. We'd click there, and then you'd want it to begin right here, and at the end of the clip, and then you can just drag it down like that, and it would sound something like this.
Sound effects like this dog barking into your show. You can even talk over the dog if you'd like. You can also...
So a little loud, so we want to click back on our envelope tool. We see it again there. And just play with it a little more, make it a little softer until it sounds about right. So then the next thing you do, you want to go back to your selection tool and see what comes up next in the podcast.
You can also insert interviews with other people, like this clip of a Serial Sarah Koenig talking about why she didn't think Serial would be such a hit. That's all for today. And that
was about 46 seconds there, so again I would zoom in, move the cursor over, so this is about 46, and you see the silence there, so this is where the sentence ends. So same thing, click on there, you edit, clip boundaries, split, to split the audio track. Then you can go in back to the larger size so you can see the big picture. Click on your time shift tool, click on the piece you want to shift, just drag it like this, and then you want to insert your sound bites, your actuality. So import audio Koenig actuality. It gives you a message like this, just hit OK. That's just telling you it's a different type of file. And once again, you see it's down here, but we want it to be up here. So we can go move track up, move it up one line. We'd really like it to be under the track. So one more time, move track up, and there it is. So then you want to take your time shift tool, drag it to where you want it. You can see these little overlap here, so you want to take this and move it to the end. So you see those yellow lines to show that it's matched up. Then you click back on your selection tool, Click there and play it and see if it sounds like you want it to sound.
Serial would be such a hit.
We did not expect Serial to get very much attention at all. We made it mostly from my basement with like pillows and blankets thrown around to muffle the sound, and we would have to like stop recording when my kids flushed the toilet and stuff. So we really weren't expecting it. And you know, plus it's a 10-hour audio documentary about an old murder that I did not solve.
That's all for today.
So you notice in this the levels again were a little too low, so just want to boost it up a little bit here. We go back, we can play it again.
And blankets thrown around to muffle the sound, and we would have to like stop recording when my kids flushed the toilet and blankets thrown around.
Still needs a tiny bit more. And this again where just the you just play around with it till it sounds good.
Around to muffle the sound, and we would have to like stop recording when my kids flushed the toilet and stuff. So,
and that sounds fine to me. If you think the clip is too long and you want to edit it down, you can do that too, the same way we did before. You just zoom in until you find the spot where you want to end it. You can highlight the section you don't want and then just hit delete. But if you're fine keeping it as is, we can keep it as is. And so now we move on to the final part of the clip. Click there and hit play.
That's all for today. As I say goodbye, the music will slowly fade up.
You see in this, it says the music comes back. So we want to go back to our music clip here. And again, we can just move the track up. We'll move it up again. So now that it's the second music clip up, we can play with the audio fade. So we go back to our envelope tool right here. And you notice that the end of the podcast is here, so we want to click on this portion here, and again somewhere else down here. And because we made it, turned it off earlier, now we just increase it again. And because it's supposed to be a fade up, we want to bring it here, and we're just going to play with it until it looks good. And we want at the end to go full volume, so it's going to pretty steeply start saying this as it goes along. So to hear what that sounds like, we can go back to our selection tool, click a spot right before the clip and hit play.
Solve.
That's all for today. As I say goodbye, the music will slowly fade up.
And that was a bit too quick at the end. So we'll go back to the envelope tool and just drop this a little more, maybe go like this. So now we can go back to our time selection tool, hit play.
Solve.
That's all for today. As I say goodbye, the music will slowly fade up.
And you also notice we have a lot of extra music we don't have here. If you want to keep that, that's fine. It kind of adds to the length of your podcast. But if you want to get rid of it, you can use the selection tool there and do what we did earlier. Just drag over, hit delete to get rid of it. And now the podcast will end. If you want to do the envelope tool and make it go down to nothingness, you can do that too. Again, it's a personal preference. So now we think we have the podcast all set, but we just want to make sure before we actually export. So we make sure we're on the selection tool. We go back to the start. You can also hit this button here. It goes back to the start. Hit play and see what it sounds like.
Hello and welcome. We'll begin this podcast as the theme music fades down and out. Audio editing is fun for many reasons. One is that you can insert sound effects, like this dog barking, into your show. You can even talk over the dog if you'd like. You can also insert interviews with other people, like this clip of a Serial Sarah Koenig talking about why she didn't think Serial would be such a hit.
We did not expect Serial to get very much attention at all. We made it mostly from my basement with like pillows and blankets thrown around to muffle the sound, and we would have to like stop recording when my kids flushed the toilet and stuff. So we really weren't expecting it. And plus it's a 10-hour audio documentary about an old murder that I did not solve.
That's all for today. As I say goodbye, the music will slowly fade out.
So one thing I noticed there was that the theme music came back in the middle. And you can see that here it's popped up a little. This is silent. You see it a tiny bit there. So if you want to get rid of that, we can click near where it starts, hit our envelope tool again, and then just make sure everything is a flat line. Click there. Still got a little bit right there, so we click back on that, drag it down from there, and there you go. So it's a fine line. And again, at the end, you notice the sort of abrupt ending. So maybe you want to click on that again and take your envelope tool, click on the end there, so you have it's full for a little bit, and then you can just drag the end of the show down, maybe bring a little bit up here so it's full for a little bit. Now we can listen to what that sounds like. Click on your selection tool, click here, hit play.
Did not solve.
That's all for today. As I say goodbye, the music will slowly fade out.
And then it fades down. And again, if you want to extend the music for 15 seconds or so, that's fine. Again, it's a preference thing, how long you want it to be, how long you want the music to play out. So now that you're fine with what the final clip will sound like, you go to File, and you want to do Save Project. That's always a good idea. Maybe you want to save it as something as you go along, so if your computer crashes, you don't lose it. And you notice it saves it as a .aup file. Now this is important. This AUP file is not a playable audio file. It basically tells Audacity where your edits are and where your clips are and things like that. So you hit Save. And then the second thing you need to do in order to get the audio clip, you go File, Export Audio, and then you can give it a name. There, and then from the Save As File type, you can choose how you want to save it. A WAV file, the WAV, is a large file size. So if you are going to upload to SoundCloud, it might be best to do that because you get a higher quality version. And since SoundCloud only cares about the length of your podcast, not how large the file size is, then you can do it that way. If you want to do it as an MP3, that's better for emailing to people, or if you host your own website, if you don't want to go through SoundCloud, you want to post it to a WordPress site or something like that, that can work too. But also know you may get an error that you need to download a different set of files. I put some instructions for that also on the Dropbox site if you need help with that. So let's just do it as a WAV file, call it My Podcast, hit Save. Again, if it gives you an error message, just hit OK. This basically says that some of your clips are stereo, some are mono, and it's saying that when you export it, it'll all be mono, and that's totally fine. Clip there, and this screen, if you want to give it some what's known as metadata. This is where you can put your name of your podcast, track numbers, the year it was done, any other comments you want people to see. You can put that here if you want. It'll appear if someone downloads your file, but it's not necessary. You just leave it blank if you want to. You hit OK. You see a little screen pop up that it is saving. So then you can go to the file where you have the thing saved, and then you can find My Podcast right here. It's a WAV file. This is the one where your completed clip is, and you can double click on that and listen to it one more time before you upload it to somewhere like SoundCloud.
Hello and welcome. We'll begin this podcast as the theme music fades down and out. Audio editing is fun for many reasons. One is that you can insert sound effects, like this dog barking, into your show. You can even talk over the dog if you'd like. You can also insert interviews with other people, like this clip of a Serial Sarah Koenig talking about why she didn't think Serial would be such a hit.
We did not expect Serial to get very much attention at all. We made it mostly from my basement with like pillows and blankets thrown around to muffle the sound, and we would have to like stop recording when my kids flushed the toilet and stuff. So we really weren't expecting it. And plus it's a 10-hour audio documentary about an old murder that I did not solve.
That's all for today. As I say goodbye, the music will slowly fade out.